What's up, guys? So we're back for episode 46 with Dr. David Bonanno. Thomas is not going to be in the episode. You see him here, but we're filming this after the fact as we have a new sponsor on the podcast. So we're going to be talking about trading psychology today, EMDR. I think I got that right. And just other aspects of how Dr. David Bonanno went from treating patients with PTSD to getting into the world of helping traders with their struggles when it came to trading and the decisions they were making in trades, and how their mental aspect or traumas, fed into their trading biases. So look forward to this episode. Super cool. Check it out. As usual, all the links will be down below. You can click on anything of Dr. Bonanno's. His will all be down there. And then obviously follow along with us and enjoy the episode. What's up, everyone? It's Randy here, one of the hosts of Behind the Charts podcast. A question I get asked all the time is, which prop firm should I trade with? Well, now I am excited to announce that we are working with Prop Firm Match, and they've become the official sponsor of the Behind the Charts podcast. The beautiful thing about Prop Firm Match is you can go to their website now and see all the prop firms. You can see the rules, you can see their payouts, you can see good reviews, bad reviews, whatever you want to see, and then you can make that decision. That's the one thing that I say to a lot of new traders is, how do you trade? What's your style of trading? Even just your personality type when it comes to trading. And what I find with Prop Firm Match is you have all these different prop firms, and you can go there and see what fits your style and just your personality overall. So go check them out. Use code MATCH. There's a link down below. Hit that link. Code MATCH will get you the best discount across all of the prop firms, no matter what you choose. So check them out today. And again, super excited that we partnered with them and that they're going to be sponsoring the podcast. Episode 45 of Behind the Charts. Welcome back, everyone. Today we got a special guest. He's not a trader, but helps traders a lot. This is Dr. Dave Bonanno. He is a registered therapist or psychologist.
Yep, psychologist. Yep.
Yeah, registered psychologist. And actually, let's just straight get into it. And Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. Yeah, sometimes people are like, "Oh, he doesn't even trade," but I wanted to come at it like without having my own biases. So I was a PTSD expert for a long time, and then my wife's uncle came to me, and I totally helped him straighten out his mindset. And then I was like, "Oh my God, I should do this." And I've been having such a good time working with traders, and I definitely do want to start trading myself, but I'm trying to get this business going. And I think it really has helped me. I wrote my book, The Consistently Calm Trader, and I was able to just look at it from a very fresh perspective. And of course, the mindset stuff is all psychology. So when I work with traders, I have no problem at all. And nobody's even asked me, if I trade or not. So yeah, I've been in the mental health field since 1993, and I ended up working with people with PTSD. Of course, they say who you are, who you hang out with. And then one day I was like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with the most damaged people in society every day. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to work with traders. Also because with PTSD people, they don't quite appreciate what you do for them, and they want to just use their insurance. Whereas with traders, they could tell me I lost $15,000 yesterday, and I'm like, oh well, maybe you could, get some help from me. I ended up being the first guy in America to start helping people with PTSD to qualify for medical marijuana programs in different states. Oh, wow. So I've talked to over 17,000 people myself, and very few people have that perspective. And the thing that I really learned, you guys, is that there is a lot of intersection between mindset problems for traders and PTSD, because what I've discovered is that adrenaline is what makes your fight or flight system activate, and that is by design supposed to make your logical brain go offline. So if you think about it, if you are kind of emotionally off balance and you're having this kind of noise that's affecting your decisions as a trader, and this is when there's pressure on the line, when there's money on the line. If you're feeling fear or anger, especially, or anxiety or guilt or all kinds of stuff, that is going to affect your trading. It makes your logical brain go offline, even just a little bit. So what I talk about with people is, not only might you need my help if you're really screwing up, but how much leakage is happening. I call it mindset leakage that you don't even know about, because like, this is all subconscious, and by definition that means you're not aware of it. You're not conscious. So if like people try to ask themselves, well, how much is my mindset costing me, my mindset troubles, it's really hard to know sometimes because you're not aware of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
So what kind of, or go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, actually, just kind of going back to you getting into traders. I'm just curious to know, the first trader you worked with, was it your uncle? And how did that, just to understand like your mindset of meeting a trader for the first time, what is it like, that conversation? Because I'm just trying to like think about how even like my spouse or a friend that is witnessing you go through tilt or whatever it is, what they're seeing.
Yeah, right. So he was my wife's uncle, and he had read a whole lot of this trading psychology books, and especially Mark Douglas. And then I read the book. I thought it was really great. I mean, he talks about how like the 4 fears that can get you. I sort of zoomed out a little bit. I call it adrenaline is the enemy of every trader. But even Mark Douglas said, like, in order to conquer these fears or to really get dialed in emotionally, that can be the hardest thing that you ever do. And where I come in was, actually, I already had a therapy that I developed called de-adrenalization, and it uses eye movements like EMDR. Like if you guys don't know what it is, you can look it up, or there's people all over doing it. And it's the most heavily researched therapy for PTSD that there is. But with these eye movements, it affects you subconsciously. So with my wife's uncle, like it's like a shortcut. Like, so he was aware that he would get really frustrated with losses, and he just kept thinking about the big picture. Like, oh my gosh, when am I ever going to be able to retire? And he wanted to make like $4 million. And every single time he had a loss, he was thinking globally, and he was telling himself like, oh shit, this is never going to happen. And then of course raised his adrenaline, made him make more mistakes. And then once you get into that cycle, that could be really hard to get out of. So what I did for him was I helped him get in touch with his subconscious, with the eye movements. And it's really good for diagnosing. So for him, he felt like there's this, he's an Irish guy. He felt like there's this leprechaun, this evil leprechaun that was on his shoulder, who was saying like, come on, just make this next trade. This next one's gonna be the right one. It's gonna make your day green. And so by using that metaphor, we were able to kind of get out of analytical brain and to just rewire what was going on for him. So he started seeing losses as like part of his growth. And then he identified like this football coach was this character who's like, you gotta work hard. You gotta go through shit, in order to make it. So when he was like trading, he'd have the leprechaun here and then the football coach here. And he didn't have to think about it much at all. I mean, that's one of the cool things about this type of intervention that I do. But it really did set him on the right track. I mean, he was able to take losses a lot better. And yeah, like to your question, Randy, like what do non-traders think about that? Or like, I mean, I've talked to all kinds of people who their spouse is just so sick of hearing about it, because one of the things is they don't know what to say. I mean, what can you say? And like, if you ask yourself the question of why did I screw up there, your brain is very literal. It's going to give you an answer. Your brain's not going to like contradict you and say, oh, well, you're special, and you know, like, don't worry, you don't have any faults. Your brain's gonna be like, you screwed up there because you're a loser, and because, you know, you're never gonna make it, and you're stupid, and you're wrong, and your dad was right, you're an idiot. So you know what I'm saying? Like, so we sometimes we have to clear up some of those issues as well. Like, I'm not one of those therapists who wants to blame people's parents and spend the next 6 years like talking about it, but this type of therapy that I do is super quick, and it can just clear up whatever's there.
That's
Super
so
cool.
cool. I love that. I feel like trading is one of those things, like you always hear it. It's like you don't, if you don't want to go to therapy, become a trader, because it almost like forces you to
Yeah.
deal with all the psychological stuff. And I can imagine as a non-trader looking into this like industry and seeing how psychological it is. It honestly must look like a gold mine from the outside, because like we're all here trying to make money at home, which usually means we have money to spend on ourselves. We all believe in self-improvement. We all believe that like changing our mindset and changing our psychology is actually going to help us tremendously. So I think it's so smart of you to actually get into this industry and try to help people. And I do believe, I mean, my husband is in he's a coach, but for business owners, and he so heavily focuses on personal development because that's where he sees the biggest growth. It's like, you want to change your business, you have to change yourself, and for him that's what's been the biggest growth. And I do think, and I think I'm at a point in my trading where I know that what is holding me back is me. I mean, I've probably known for a while, but I think we probably all get through. In the beginning, we're like, oh, is it this strategy? Is it this strategy? I need to try this. I need to take partials. I need to not. Like, you try to figure it out technically. And
Yeah.
then eventually you just come to the point when you're like, oh no, like no matter what I do technically, it's all here. And that can take a while. I mean, it's taken a while for me to figure out, but I think it can take a while for some other traders to figure out as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Christine. And I think, you know, of course, you should probably look at your technical operations and what you're doing in your back test. Of course, you should look at that stuff. But yeah, it's like, you know, being an athlete, like you need
Mhm.
coaches. Like you can work on your physical game all day, every day, but you also need coaching because, you
Mhm.
know, those people can not only guide you to where you got to go, but help you to see what's been kind of holding you up. It kind of cracks me up how like somebody's family might be begging them, like, you got to make some changes in your life, you're so hard to live with, and you can kind of put off your spouse or your family, and then when you start trading, you're like, oh my god, I gotta
I
I gotta be a better person.
know.
So that kind of cracks me up. But yeah, like, so when I started to examine like the field of mindset psychology, that's one of the things I was thinking is like, oh, there's a really a good space for me here because like it just seems like, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but all the other coaches, they talk about like these tips and tricks, and like they have ways that they try to get you to change your thoughts, or like they tell you to make rules to help you follow your rules. And you know, when it comes down to it, like when you're in that battle of like, should I pull the
Mm.
trigger or shouldn't I? Like, I know I shouldn't, but then like you do. First of all, like just being in that situation is really unpleasant as it is, right? I mean, so like I think people will do just about anything to get out of that situation of being in the battle. So you could do one of two things. You could like literally run away from your computer or you know, try just really, really hard to not make a mistake, or you just go ahead and fucking click it. And
Mhm.
then it feels good because you're releasing all this tension in the moment. And then you feel, you know, terrible afterwards. But what I try to do with people is not to get them to change their thoughts. That's what everybody else does. Like, try to just think of it differently, or like, you can't control what the market does, but you can control your attitude. You know, I kind of disagree with that. Or maybe you could sometimes, if you're putting in tons of effort, if you're putting in tons of willpower, but willpower only goes so far. And when people still make mistakes and they were counting on their willpower, then they start to feel like, well, why can't I do that? Am I a weak person? Or like, you know, like why can't my willpower just take me to where I got to go? So if you can do this type of like eye movements and get it so that you could prevent the battle, like that's where you really want to be.
I'd
Would it
be
be
interested.
okay? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. And then I would be interested to hear your take on discipline and how that comes in, because I feel like you just touched on it, like the willpower, or like you know, your body almost feels like it has to do this thing, like get in a trade or get out of a trade. And you're in this like mental battle. And a lot of the times people talk about, well, it comes down to your discipline, because if you have a set rules, you need to follow your rules. And if you're not following your rules, then that's a discipline problem.
Yeah. So discipline is kind of like a discipline problem. That's kind of an overarching term that a lot of problems can be called discipline problems. And, you know, you could tell yourself like, well, obviously I'm going to follow these rules. Like all I have to do is follow these rules.
Yes.
And then people still don't do it because, you know, when there's pressure on the line, then that's like, you know, you can go into fight or flight very easily. But I'm also reminded of like before I had a credit card, I was like, well, how can anybody run up credit cards? Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And then I was 18 in college. I got a credit card. It didn't seem like real money. And then, you know, like, I feel like what the hell's wrong with me? But I mean, I think that's kind of similar, right? Like if you were to look up like what causes discipline problems, or if you were to look up why do I self-sabotage, like that's something I really don't like, because I don't think anybody wants to sabotage, but the problems you have can feel like it, because like I said, like, you know, if you're asking yourself this question, why am I screwing myself over, you're going to get answers. And one of them might be, well, you must feel like you don't deserve good stuff, or you must want to fail somehow. And that's crazy making. I mean, that just doesn't feel good at all. So it's kind of like, you know, discipline problems. What causes discipline problems? That would be sort of like, why doesn't my car go? Like there's not one answer to that. There's a whole lot of different answers. So that's kind of one of the things I get into with my people is like we go through this diagnostic phase first. I do psychological testing. Like as a psychologist, I'm the only type of profession that could do psychological testing. And then so we come up with like personality traits and patterns and stuff. But you know, the situation dictates what you do more than your character. And when when there's money on the line, I mean, like I know people who can sim trade and they're awesome, and then they actually start doing it and they totally fall apart. And I mean, like I said, I don't want to say anything bad about people, but other coaches, they tell you, you gotta try really hard. You gotta set your rules. You gotta try super hard to get them to go. Hey, little girl. And then if you can't, then you just gotta try harder. And if that doesn't work, then you gotta try harder. That's kind of like what it comes down to. That's where the rubber really meets the road. And I feel bad for people who get that advice, because then you start thinking like, why am I not trying harder? Why can I not try harder? You know?
And there was something else you said too that I wanted to touch on, because I talk about it quite a bit with traders, is the concept of self-sabotage. And I think people don't, at least I didn't understand what that was in the beginning when I started trading, especially when you're trading these sim funded accounts, or you're trading these evaluations or challenges where you have a profit target. And when you get close to that profit target, you know, you begin to self-sabotage, or you don't think you can do it. So I would love to get, you know, a professional's definition. And I don't mean the dictionary's definition, but when it comes from you talking to a trader and you're explaining to them self-sabotage, how would you explain it so that people, you know, watching this will be like, shit, now I know. Because it's like I get so close to a payout, and I know multiple people that just blow up.
Yeah.
And they don't get that payout. They don't understand what's going on. And they blame it on discipline or a lack of this or a lack of this, when it could be self-sabotage. So I'd love to hear your, you know, how you'd explain it to a trader, just so they could be at ease that, you know, people have these, you're not the only one having this problem, more or less.
Yeah, that's so good, Randy. I mean, because you're going to have to ask the question. One thing that I do is I don't spend tons of time figuring out what the problem was. Like, I mean, I definitely do the diagnostics, like I said, and the eye movements help people to just figure out what they need to figure out. It's like so great for accessing your creative brain. And then people will have these breakthroughs like, oh my God, like this goes back to when I was younger and my family didn't have financial security. And that's what's really kind of been affecting me is like this fear. Or like it could be, for example, that they had a really big loss in the past and it's literally traumatized them. And then you have to deal with that. I did try to find like an official answer. Like I looked in the psychological literature for self-sabotage or like masochism or whatever. I didn't find anything like anywhere. So I do try to get people to not label it as self-sabotage because I mean, where are you going to go from there? Like, and I think people sometimes will kind of try to load up their motivation to not fail again. Like they put more pressure on themselves. Like they'll have like I know a guy who has a picture of his family, like right next to his computer. He's like, I can't let them down.
Yeah.
And that's like, yeah, I mean, you already have enough incentive to not screw up and you don't need to add more incentive to that. And then, so yeah, just to come back a little bit to what I try to do, like I had a coach one time say like, well, how can you solve a problem for somebody if you don't understand it? And then I was like, well, you know what? Like, let's say I was in LA and I wanted to go to San Francisco. Do I need to know everything about LA and study maps of LA and talk to everybody in LA? Or do I need somebody to show me where the 5 freeway is? And then I just go to frickin' San Francisco. So like, I hope that's answering your question, Randy. I really try to get out of that type of thinking of why did I screw up? I mean, we certainly, I mean, no, you can ask why did I screw up and then try to figure that out. Why do I hate myself and want to screw myself? And like, why don't I want to be happy and successful? Oh my God, those are some heavy questions that I don't think are going to be very productive in terms of trying to answer those.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is because I can see. I feel like a lot of people do push into like the figuring out the why. It's like you go back and you try to figure out, okay, what was the first experience that made me have this negative emotion and all these things. But I get it's like kind of putting yourself a bit on a hamster wheel. It's like, okay, you're trying to figure out why this happened, but then why did that happen? And why do I feel like this? And instead of almost going forward and finding like you said, a road to get where you want a road, you're kind of stuck looking backwards. So I could see that being helpful, especially for traders that want to move forward, that don't want to spend months and months in their like psychological past trying to figure this stuff out because, like you said, you do psychological whatever you call it. Wow, I'm not a psychologist, but you look at them and figure out like kind of the
psychology shit.
Yeah, like the psychology shit. But then it seems like you don't really dwell on the past as much, but more focused on trying to find like a path towards their goals, like quicker than maybe the next person.
Yeah, and like I don't try to focus much on what you should be thinking because correct me if I'm wrong, but if things are going really well as a trader, you're in a flow state. Like you're just kind of reacting and you're going with your intuition. And that is like, so, we have 2 brains. There's your logical brain and then there's your creative emotional brain, and that's your intuition. And so that's one reason I think that AI won't replace traders is because you have to have that intuition. So yeah, like, let's say you make a mistake and then you ask yourself later when you're journaling, like, what was I thinking when I did that? You weren't actually thinking. There's no answer to that question. What was I thinking? You weren't thinking. You were in the moment. You made the decision. It didn't go your way. You'll never know, of course, what exactly happened, like all the factors that made the market do what it did. But I try to get people to really kind of cultivate this state of really just kind of being like relaxed, no adrenaline, really. Like, you're supposed to just be in the moment. And so yeah, that's kind of what I do. I mean, like, if we can clear up some problems like pretty quick, then that definitely helps. But otherwise, like, I'm not one of those other coaches who tries to get people to just like think positive or just like do this or that. Like, I don't think thinking has a place when you're in the moment trading. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep. To me, it does. Randy?
I'm thinking about that. I don't know.
He's thinking.
We do talk about it a lot, is like, when it comes to trading, if you're using the word thinking, it's not good. You shouldn't be thinking. You should be doing, like, being reactive to what's going on in the markets, not just sitting there thinking it's going to do this or thinking it's going to go here or go there. So I do get it in that sense. So that's why I was just kind of, hearing it from you. I'm just trying to process it and see where I can, if there's a different take on it. Right. So I love hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Would you
then
mind
now, I was just going to ask you a little bit more about, working with traders. Is everybody, like, I don't want to say success rate, because I'm not trying to just say just with you, but do you find with some form of analysis or discussion, majority of traders tend to find a way to get back to better trading, or they're more successful at trading?
Yeah, for sure. I do have a really high success rate before I start seeing people. Like, so right now, my offer is that people can have unlimited access to me for 8 weeks and as many sessions as they need, but they don't need many. We get results very quickly, but I also kind of try to make sure that they respond to the eye movement stuff, because, excuse me, I think maybe 90% of people do. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just share my screen real quick, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like.
That'd be really cool.
All right.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, you might want to, whatever timestamp this is, about 25 minutes in, come watch it on YouTube, because we're going to do a screen share.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so like, if I'm working with somebody remotely, then I have them look at the screen. And if you guys are at home watching this on YouTube, then you could just make sure that your head is close enough so that your eyes go back and forth all the way, pretty much. And then you should probably even turn down the sound while you're watching this, because if you're listening to me, that's your logical brain, and we want to just be into your subconscious. Like, this is kind of like hypnosis, but there's no trance, and you're totally awake and aware the whole time. But you can have breakthroughs that are similar to hypnosis, and that's what I really like about it. Like, we have very quick results. So you guys saw that, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to get back.
It just went from side to side on the screen. So
okay, yeah.
if you were watching it, you'd probably turn down the volume, like you said, and then follow it with your eyes.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, like, it can be extremely calming. It's been in use since the 1980s, but the therapy itself, EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Personally, I think the therapy is kind of brutal, because they make you relive all the worst stuff that ever happened to you again and again and again. But what I do is I help people to quickly diagnose what's happening, and then you rewrite the story. So, like, if you had a really bad loss, then you could sort of imagine that it was just like, it was practice, like, it didn't actually affect you. And you might know what happened as if you read it in a book, but it really changes the whole attitude of things. Like, if you don't mind telling that, I'll actually interject here, but if you don't mind telling that story about the car and the car accident, like, and then, like, you Christine, you'll enjoy this, because he's like, he's going to explain of the rewriting of the story, but how he rewrites the story, I think, is really crucial too, because it can just be as simple as saying something when you rewrite it. But I think
if you be creative with the way you rewrite it. I could be wrong, but I'm just going back to that story that you told me
Yeah.
last time we had a conversation, and it was being creative in rewriting the story and not just making it just like as simple as, oh, this happened because of this.
Yeah, so I live in Massachusetts. I work in Connecticut, and for my stepson's birthday, we decided to go to New York City. Well, we were pregnant. At the time, my wife was pregnant, and she wanted to get a minivan, and I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. So I ended up seeing a limousine for sale, and it was like awesome. It was just like a 1989 Cadillac limo. I checked it out. I used to work on cars, and it looked fine to me. But when we were on the highway, somebody pulled out right in front of me, and I slammed on the brakes, and the brakes failed. So I had my whole family in the car going 60 miles per hour, and the emergency brake didn't work either. Which I should have checked that out. If I was thinking clearly, if I wasn't adrenalized at that point, I would have known I could have downshifted. But I mean, I was freaked out. I don't know how long this was even happening. We ended up going up a hill, thank God, and we were okay. But I was just like trembling, like I was in full trauma mode. I was in shock. And so I couldn't go near that car, as you can imagine. I couldn't even look at it without feeling anxiety, let alone drive it. And so I went to see a friend of mine who does this type of thing, and it only took like 25 minutes. He had me remember what happened, didn't even have to talk about it. And then I rewrote the story so that instead of slamming on the brakes, I imagined that the limousine flew over the other car, and we flew to New York City, and we were on the Today Show. And of course, I know that didn't happen, but the feeling of it was like funny, and that's the opposite of fear. And then it just like was so crazy. Like I didn't even have to. When I could drive the car again. I didn't feel anything. If I really wanted to remember what happened, I could. But like I didn't even have to work at it. Like the feelings were gone. And so that was just incredible. Like my son actually ended up passing away. Like he was 19 and he had a heart condition we didn't know about. Right. So, like for the next 3 days, all I could see was his body. And like people would be talking to me, and I couldn't even, like I had that 1,000-yard stare that they talk about. Like I couldn't even see anything except for this image. And then I used my app on myself, and I pretended that he didn't die. He just graduated. He graduated from life. He's at college somewhere. He's just having fun doing what he's got to do. That gave me so much peace, and it just helped the whole, I didn't have to see that anymore if I didn't want to. And I mean, not to make, I didn't mean to bring the room down, but I just wanted to say, like, it's so powerful and so easy, and the changes last, and you don't have to work at them. So like, yeah, if people want to try those eye movements that we just showed, like maybe you could even just ask yourself, like, what has kept me from being the best trader that I can, and then see what pops up for you, see what kind of answers pop up. Or you could use it to rewrite the story, or you could go to my YouTube channel, and there's all kinds of stuff that you can do there as well.
Oh, amazing. I love that you can rewrite your story in a creative way. Because
I had a woman, but I had a woman who got into a car accident. She couldn't drive anymore. And then we had her imagine something that she really likes doing, which is kayaking. And then she put this together on her own. Like she's like, now she thinks of her kayak. So when she's driving, she's kayaking, and she's totally relaxed.
That's amazing. I love it because it makes life so less serious. And I feel like, we sit at our computers all the time, and especially new traders, you're dealing with so much failure all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be overwhelmingly like downing. Like it can just create this kind of mood, and it can affect your family and all these things. But I love how you're almost like rewriting your perception to think more joyful and think more fun. And like, how can you not be in a better mood thinking about flying in your car or kayaking in your car? Like all these things kind of point you in a better direction to be more joyful and happy in life. And that not only would affect your trading, but like affect your life. And really, you're trading to have a better life. You're trading to have more freedom. You're trading to have more time with your family, all those things. So why wouldn't you do something that also affected those in a very positive way.
Yeah, that's great way to put it. Right. We all think that we have to work harder. And for a lot of people, like in their other careers, they work harder and that pays off. But with trading, working harder usually does backfire, right? And getting more serious about it and adding more pressure to yourself, it really, unfortunately, yeah, it's usually counterproductive. So yeah.
But you kind of have to rewrite the way you think about it in a way. But like, it sounds like a lot of the tools you already talked about, you have like very specific ways you could rewrite something in your brain, whether it's a past experience or whether it's a thought you have that means like, oh, I have to work harder. Like, you can almost rewrite how you envision that, like make up a new story in your head to really see it for what it is, which is working very little at it, which is crazy still to me. And I'm still learning that. And I'm trying to make that shift in my life, is less is more with trading.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive. One of the things I really try to get people to do, and this is hopefully going to help your listeners, is in order to handle loss, I mean, that's maybe the biggest task that any trader has. If you're to handle losses, I think the best thing to actually practice is to be sad. And that sounds really weird, but if you think about it, like if you're sad, you are accepting reality. Like the reality is that it didn't go the way you wanted to, and you were powerless at the time and you're powerless now to change it. If you're angry or guilty or anything else, you are not living in reality. You're like, well, it should have been this way, or the market should have done that, or I should have done this. And it feels more powerful than being sad because it is like you're living in this fantasy where you're more powerful, but that's totally going to keep you stuck and it's going to affect everything in the future. If you can practice actually being sad, that's one of the things I do with people with the eye movements too, is like, then you can let it go. Like one kind of cognitive twist that I liked is when Babe Ruth was interviewed, so he hit more home runs than anybody else for quite a long time, but he also struck out more than anybody else for the longest time. So they said, like, well, how do you feel when you strike out? And he's like, well, and I don't know if this isn't even really necessarily true, but the way he thought about it was every strikeout gets me closer to my next home run. So like if I take a loss, I can feel bad about it. I should maybe even feel a little bit bad about it with a time limit, maybe even 60 seconds. I'm going to feel bad about this for 60 seconds, but that just got me closer to my next win. And it's humbling, which is good. We should all stay humble. And it's just part of my education. So if you can see it like that, it just takes so much of the sting out of it.
Yeah, I liked how you just said that about practice being sad, because I had a loss today and just the words that you said, it like took away the feeling that, oh, I should have been at the computer to try to get it back. I should have taken the short that I saw, or I should have done this but that is my mind saying, oh, I was trying to control the situation, but practicing I took a loss. I can't control it. I can't get it back right now. Like, you know what I mean? It does relieve a little bit of the wanting. And I mean, sometimes that pushes us off into tilt and all these things. But I think practicing being sad is actually a really cool little piece of advice. And I will definitely try that.
Yeah, try it. Yeah. Let me know how it goes. I think people, it's sort of like, it's just so foreign to people because, we're all supposed to be living our best life and we're supposed to be like posting, pictures of our Lamborghinis and stuff, like, when you're looking at other traders and stuff like that. And so if you can actually be sad and admit that you're powerless, like, whoa, a lot of people, they can't go there. They can't be sad in even, their regular life or whatever. But if you can practice doing this, and of course, give yourself a time limit. And then, if you need more time, then do that. But yeah, you can truly let go of stuff. And that's what we need to do because, you're only as good as your next trade and you have to come at every single trade with a blank slate. Easy to say, super hard to do.
Yeah. What are you thinking over there, Randy?
No, I love all of it. I'm actually thinking about how to, process being sad, like in a trade after the moment, like mourning the loss. And then on the flip side, it's like I'm just wording in my head, how do I, if I have a 60% win rate and that I take a loss, well, then it's okay. I'm getting closer to that one of those 60% of those winning trades. Kind of like how you said Babe Ruth looks at his strike. Every time he takes a strikeout, it just gets him that much closer to his next home run. So I thought that was super cool. And yeah, so basically, just if we can dive into a little bit about what you offer with your program, and what it's kind of all about, and because we're going to just run short of time here, so I'd like to just touch on that a little bit and go over that. So
yeah, absolutely. So what we do is, like, people work with me. We have 8 weeks. They can text me, call me. We schedule sessions. We get online and have video appointments. We do some psychological testing, not a whole lot. Like, it's not a pain in the neck, but I have access to some of these really advanced tests where you get back this feedback, and it's just crazy. Like, it's kind of even like how ChatGPT is so crazy. Like, you're like, and actually I do want to mention that I have a ChatGPT powered trading mindset coach, and it's trained on everything I've ever learned, or spoken about or written. It can do the eye movement stuff. One of the cool things about that is you can use it in real time. So if you're starting to go in tilt, or if you're starting to just find yourself like feeling uncomfortable or getting into that battle, you can use it right then and there. You can use it before the session to kind of really get yourself in the zone. Mm-hmm. And then you can use it after the session for journaling, part of your journaling, because of course we should all journal. But when you're looking back, like, okay, so like half an hour ago, what was I thinking, feeling, and doing? Well, you can kind of guess with your conscious brain what you were doing subconsciously, but you can't, it's hard. You're losing too much in translation with the time difference and with also like 2 different brain systems. So if you can use the eye movements to help you to recreate what was going on for you during that trading session, then you're going to have a lot more accurate picture of what happened. But if you do work with me, we come up with kind of like your personality style, your trading style, mm-hmm. and then we do like emotional recalibration. And so we get you to be able to bring yourself back quickly to a state of just like, Zen, where you're not feeling all that adrenaline. We diagnose, what has been throwing you off. And then of course you get access to that ChatGPT coach. I have 24 video sessions that are for all kinds of different problems. There's a private community. And there's just like, basically, if you work with me, you're going to get better. And if you don't, then I won't want to charge you. And like I said, it's not just for people who have mindset problems. It's like for people who just want to stay in shape. Like, top athletes need coaches. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm not just looking for people who are like, oh, I'm not crazy, I don't want to go see that guy. It's maybe I can help you in some way. And one of the cool things about trading is like, yeah, there's so much money to be made and to not be lost. Like, so that's where I come in.
Oh, I love that. I know we don't have a lot of time, but is there like any way that we can quickly talk about the science behind the eye movements? Because I had it was silly. I was watching a video and it was talking about doing some eye movements, like when you're in bed, to try to like just help you get a better sleep and to calm. And I think it was like up, down, side to side, and then around in a circle. And I did it. And like how it calmed my brain was crazy. And I got my husband to do it. He's like, whoa, like, it's not like I all of a sudden fell asleep, but I could feel something like calming down.
Yeah.
And so I think it'd be cool. Like, there's science behind it, right? Like, can you talk about that for like a brief minute?
Right. Yeah. EMDR is the most studied therapy in history, at least for PTSD. And yet they still can't exactly pin it down what's happening, because we're trying to define a subconscious phenomenon with our conscious minds, like a lot. And so like science cannot define meditation or mindfulness or dreaming. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of like that. It's like hypnosis. And it's you could have these giant breakthroughs with hypnosis. But when I did practice hypnosis for a long time, and then people would always be like, well, are you going to make me bark like a dog? And like, I just couldn't stand when people would say that. You can never make somebody do something they don't want to do. It's only to reinforce intentions that you already had.
Yeah.
So there are theories about it. Like when you're moving your eyes, you're kind of getting your logical brain out of the way. Like you're just getting out of your own way, and you're kind of connecting with your emotional brain. When you're dreaming, it is rapid eye movement, and so you're kind of recreating that state of mind. Although, if you look at it on a brain scan, it's at different wavelengths than sleep or hypnosis or even meditation. You're totally awake and alert the whole time. But yeah, like one thing maybe people could try at home is like if you hold up 2 fingers and then you look between those. It's not quite as good, in my opinion, as having an actual stimulus that you follow. But I've used it where like I had no energy at all, and then I got energy, or at the same time, like if I was really anxious and wound up, then it helped me to calm down. So I don't know. It seems like we're tapping into some kind of ancient technology that people have gotten away from. And I mean, that's a really good question, and I wish I had a better answer for you. But that's really what's happening there. Is it's kind of like this mysterious thing, just like the subconscious, just like our minds. And if it can help you to be more aligned, like your both brain systems at the same time, then that's great. I also did write a book. It's called, it's about how your brain works, especially under pressure. It's called Your Brain is a RoboCat. So what I say is that, like, if you could picture a robot riding on top of a cat. So the robot is your logical brain, and it only has so much power, like willpower. It only has so much battery power. The cat is more powerful than the robot. It's your emotional reactions. It's your fight or flight. And I named it a cat because cats can be a pain in the ass. So you can't get them to do what you want. And when you go into fight or flight, the cat is just going to take over. So yes, we have that illusion, that fantasy that we can control our emotions. You can sometimes if you're not that activated. And that's one of the things that I just hate when other people or coaches or gurus or psychologists, they say, like, you can't control your situation, but you can totally control your thoughts, your attitudes. No, you can't. If the cat's going crazy, there's nothing you can do in the moment. So I don't know. I hope I'm not getting way too off the subject, but I think that's really what we all have to remember. When we are activated, when we are adrenalized, your logical brain and your willpower only goes so far. And then you have to deal with it, make the best of it, try to minimize the damage. But what's even better is to prevent that battle from happening in the first place. And that's what I'm all about.
That's amazing. What's the name of your book called again?
Well, so the book I just wrote is called The Consistently Calm Trader,
Awesome.
Master the War Between Discipline and Impulse. And then the other one is called Your Brain is a RoboCat. So yeah, if you go to Amazon, you can find those there. And
That's so cool.
yeah.
We definitely have to. We'll put all of Dave's where to find them below in the links, and we'd love to get questions from the viewers. If you guys want to learn anything more about EMDR or anything you heard today, we'd love to have you back on the podcast and do a part 2. So
this is fun.
We're grateful to have you here, and we love having guests that aren't traders but have a view or an idea about trading or something that could help or anything, right? So I think it just expands the conversation for us and for all the viewers. So again, thank you for coming on, and appreciate you taking the time to come join us.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was great.
Thanks, Dr. Dave.
See you guys all next week.
Bye.